Peace unto you, brothers. Did anybody ever hear of a festivity called Saturnalia? I bet that most of you never did, but I can assure you that most of you have celebrated it without even realizing what you were celebrating in truth. I tell you, I did before too, and it was such a rude awakening to me when I understood what it really was all about that I decided never again. Would you like to know what exactly Saturnalia is? If you do, take a listen in Following the Way of Yeshua. Now, this may be confusing as we will go back and forth in time. Bear with me, please. We'll begin about 200 years before Christ, when a much older tradition was being reshaped under the Roman Empire, and a festivity was in order to celebrate this deity of agricultural bounty, Saturn, the god of seed and sowing who embodied prosperity and wealth to this new kingdom. This festivity fell during the winter's shortest day, the solstice, on December 25th. The Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, the birthday of the unconquerable sun. But who was this unconquerable sun, Saturnalia, celebrated by the Romans even before Christ was born? And what were these celebrations, these December festivities like? Well, to begin, Saturnalia was a regular holiday, much like the December holidays of our times, where work is stopped and celebrations are planned. Here are some of the Saturnalia traditions. If any of them seem familiar to you, write a comment, please. Number 1. People decorated their homes with wreaths and other greenery. Number 2. People shed their traditional togas in favor of colorful clothes. Number 3. Slave people didn't have to work, and they were allowed to participate in the festivities. Sometimes they sat at the head of the table while their masters served them. Number 4. Instead of working, they spent their entire time gambling, playing music, feasting, and giving each other's gift. Number 5. Wax candles were common gifts during Saturnalia to signify light after solstice. Number 6. Slaves wore the symbol of the freedman, a conical felt cap. Number 7. And on the last day of the celebration, also known as the Sigilleria, they gave each other small figurines that represented all their traditions involving human sacrifices. I will spare you the beheading and gruesome details. Number 8. During the medieval era, people will choose a person as the lord of misrule, the mock king, a king of fools, as some would say. He was usually a lowlier member of the household. His responsibility? Making mischief during the celebrations. It's been recorded that future Emperor Nero played the role during his youth. There has been many other traditions through the ages, like making a boy bishop for a day, or the role reversal in France, where Catholic priests would dress in women's clothing for that day. But none of them as ancient and beloved by many as the long-established Christmas tree. Here we have a wall carving display at the British Museum. What we're seeing is the much older than our times tradition of decorating the tree, all the way to the angel crowning to the very top. But this is no angel, so you know. This is a straight pagan god worship. Now, how do I know that, you may say? Well, I will present you next with some written records 600 years before Christ. In the book of Jeremiah 10:3-5 we read, "For the custom of the people are vain. For one cuts a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman, with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold." This is eerily familiar, brothers. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not, They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they can't go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Does this last sentence mean that it just doesn't matter if you have a tree or not? I gotta say that I only found warnings by the Almighty about such practice. In Deuteronomy 16:21 I found, "You shall not plant for yourself an Asherah meaning goddess symbol, of any kind of tree beside the altar of the Lord your God, which you shall make for yourself." One last one, although one can find many more in the Bible. In Jeremiah 3:6, God says, "Have you seen what faithless Israel did? She went up on every hill and under every green tree, and she was a harlot there." That's it. That is a term I would think no believer will want to be called by God. "Oh, Christmas tree, you're out of my house." But seriously, how did a pagan festivity like Saturnalia turn into a celebration associated with the birthday of the Messiah, the Christ, and call it Christmas? How did the Romans manage to do that and convince the loyal followers of the way, the very people that willingly sacrificed their lives in the Roman arenas to celebrate such ungodly tradition? I find no data of such festivity in the New Testament letters written during the first century. But then we see something happen during the 4th century AD. The Emperor Constantine came into play. What happened with him? Who was this emperor? During the 4th century AD, and after years of persecution to Christianity, the Emperor Constantine the Great made edicts tolerating all religions, including Christianity. This seemed great news at first glance: no more persecutions, and finally peace to practice Christianity with no restrictions. But the emperor and his organized clergy were now in charge. They were going to tell Christians what to believe and what not, what form of worship was acceptable and what wasn't. Here we have in the year 312 AD, to commemorate Constantine's victory over Maxentius at the Battle of Milvian Bridge, they built an arch that was decorated with images of goddess Victoria, and sacrifices were made to pagan gods at its dedication, including Apollo, Diana, and Hercules. Constantino ruled 31 years, but he never outlawed paganism. Another clear example of Mr. Constantine, Emperor of Rome, in the year 330, at the festival of Saint Mosius, the dedication was celebrated and commemorated with special coins with Sol Invictus. Remember the name? In commemoration, Constantine had a statue of the goddess of fortune Tyche built, as well as a column made of porphyry, at the top of which was a golden statue of Apollo, with the face of Constantine looking towards the sun. Historian Ramsay MacMullen explains this by saying Constantine wanted to obliterate non Christians, but lacking the means, he had to be content with robbing their temples. Constantine did not obliterate what he took, though, he reused it. And so, in a clear example of reusing existing beliefs, Emperor Constantine mixed the ancient pagan festivity Saturnalia with a made up nativity of the Christ Jesus, also known as Christmas. In the years 330s of our era, the now well organized Roman Church, thinking that they could attract more converts to Christianity by allowing them to continue to celebrate on the same day as Saturnalia, made a proclamation. Pope Julius I declared December 25th Christ born in Bethlehem, Judea. Period. Now, brothers, there seems to be good intentions after all in converting a pagan festivity into a Christian one. But somebody said before, for although the act condemns the doer, the end may justify him. Well, that means that the Pope idea was justifiable after all? Since the idea will multiply the amounts of believers in theory, it makes perfect sense after all. But whose idea was that the end justified the means? That somebody was none other than Machiavelli, who some scholars and people in general believe that he was a teacher of evil. But let me tell you, what is the position of the believer? What is the position of the Almighty if we read the Bible? For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. What this passage tells us is that the ways we use in the world, deceiving and lying with our lips, are not the way of the Almighty One. Yes, brothers, deceiving people with pagan festivities is wrong. Remember, his ways are not our ways. Now, let's go back to the Sun Invictus. I stated earlier that Saturnalia originated about 2 centuries before the Christ, and I stated also the name of the pagan god who adopted the title Sol Invictus, the undefeated sun. But did you know also that this same deity existed under a different name hundreds of years before, even before the Roman Empire? We'll read the story in the book of Ezekiel. It starts on Ezekiel 8:6. Son of man, do you see what they are doing? The great abominations which the house of Israel are doing here, driving me away from my set apart place, and you are to see still greater abominations. And I saw women sitting there, weeping for Tammuz, same deity under different name as Saturn. Then he said to me, have you seen this, O son of man? You are to see still greater abomination than this. This Tammuz is the same deity as Saturn. And I will prove that to you in the next passages. And he brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord. And there, at the door of the temple of the Lord, there is this side where about 25 men with their backs towards the temple of the Lord and their faces towards the east, and they were bowing themselves eastward to the sun. In the very temple of the Almighty, they give the Almighty their backs, and they bow to the sun. Therefore I shall indeed deal in wrath. And who wants to see the wrath of the Almighty? Not me, let me tell you. My eye shall not pardon, nor would I spare, and they shall cry in my ears with a loud voice, but I shall not hear them. This deity, whose name changes through the ages and kingdoms, is one of the rulers of the darkness, of the powers and principalities, enemies of El Shaddai of Israel, an enemy of the true believers. Here in this list are some of the names he has used by different cultures. And yes, you are seeing well that scepter in the hands of that bishop of the new Roman Church is the Sun Invictus. O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Shall a man make gods unto himself, and they are no gods? Therefore, behold, I will these ones cause them to know. I will cause them to know mine hand and my might, and they shall know that my name is Jehovah.